This week's OT Center is working with Play-Doh. So one thing just to point out, Play-Doh is definitely good for fine motor skills. It's also very good for sensory skills, so input. It's a very calming activity, sometimes nice to do with your children before bedtime. But the focus, for our lesson is both that sensory and that fine motor, increasing strength in the fingers as well as calming. Kids really love Play-Doh. There's recipes you can buy, store-bought Play-Doh. You can use modeling clay for maybe kids that are a little bit older. You can make recipes. They have some non-toxic recipes with flour, cream of tartar, but there's definitely many values. So I'm going to show you just a few activities you can do with Play-Doh. They're going to be working with Play-Doh in the class this week, as well as here's some ideas that you can do at home. One thing to start with is I always try and encourage the kids to open it themselves, and if you think of all the different coordination points that there is to opening a container, that is just something that I recommend. And then I also recommend letting them pull the Play-Doh out, and I think a lot of times we want to help them get the Play-Doh out, but even just pulling the Play-Doh out and using their fingers to kind of dig it out is really good for strengthening, and then also just for moving the different parts of the finger. When we think about handwriting, when we're writing, we move our fingers all separately. So we don't move our whole arm. As we develop, we start to move the fingers. So just if you can look, digging Play-Doh out helps us move those different parts of the fingers independently. So just starting off to help increase that strength, having them try and get the Play-Doh out. Of course, just kneading the Play-Doh is very, very calming. Rolling it, some of those basic things. A lot of times kids like to make a snake, and they'll roll and they'll press and coordinate their fingers. At this point, there's a couple different things you can do. You can try and get them to imitate you by pressing into the Play-Doh, and then that again works on kind of just using your finger independently. A lot of times with our kiddos, we look at how they point, especially like if they're using an iPad, sometimes they use their whole hand. But we really want to work on that finger isolation, which again will help when we get to that point of using, holding the pencil correctly. So you can have them work on pushing. You can also take like a plastic knife, or this is just a craft stick, and you can have them work on cutting skills. So then you're also working on independence, and they really enjoy that. You can also use scissors with Play-Doh, and the kids really like that too. So the same thing, they can kind of form a little snake, and then you can have them practice cutting pieces off. So that's just a nice way to work on building up their strength with that. Some other things you can do is you can hide some different things. I just have a few little butterfly little trinkets, so you could get little things at the dollar store. Sometimes they have like those little seashells that are different clear gel trinkets, and so you can hide the trinket in the Play-Doh, and you can have them try and dig things out of the Play-Doh. You can also have them put different things in the Play-Doh. So I just have some, good old pegs, so they can try and stick pegs in, or if there's not a concern for a choking hazard, these are just some dried beans, but you could also use some of those perler beads that you make necklaces and bracelets with. But even just to push different things in the Play-Doh and dig different things out of the Play-Doh is another just really good activity. For some of the older kids, you can get creative if you had different shapes. So like I have a triangle here. You can encourage the kids to try and make a triangle with the Play-Doh. So that works on kind of those writing skills. Or you could even get creative if you had different blocks, and you could pretend and work on that pretend play and pretend that the Play-Doh is mortar. And so you can stack blocks together and use the Play-Doh as glue. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to contact me, but hopefully you've got some different ideas of things you can do at home.